Hi, everybody, and welcome to another segment of ATN Nation Live. I'm your host, Steve Lemonov, here with ATN. And to continue our international flavor, we have with us a longtime ambassador, all the way from South Africa, mind you, Marno Muller. Everybody, big hand. Marno, my friend, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks. On your side?
Very good. It's been a little bit hectic working remotely with kids and wife in the same building for a while. It's kind of difficult. I'm sure it's been a kind of a challenge for you in South Africa. I know you moved from Johannesburg to Durban pretty recently, and there was a bit of unrest, civil unrest in Durban, which is kind of scary and has caused issues in terms of not just supply chain, but even the ability to do the basic things that you and I love, and that's hunting and hunting for predators. Um,
Correct.
I'm sure a lot of people are interested because South Africa is so far away, so removed from the United States or even the UK. It's really a different world in its own right. If you can, tell us about, yourself, how long you've been on ATN Pro staff as an ambassador. And I want to kind of get into the type of hunting you guys do in South Africa, which I think is very interesting to a lot of our viewers.
Yeah, I think let's start with, I think I joined the ATN team in 2015 already. I had to actually go back and have a look how long it was. But yeah, so in the Excite One days, I joined. And yeah, I mean, it's been a heck of a ride, meeting people all over the world. And yeah, and I mean, since 2015, I haven't had a glass scope on my rifles. So
So
it's
you
only
basically
18.
transitioned from glass optics that you were using predominantly maybe 5, 6 years ago
100%.
before you joined ATN to completely digital optics now, which is a huge
100%.
transition.
It was a massive transition, but it was totally worth it, especially for the predator hunting that we do. I mean, we do a lot of jackal hunting and caracal hunting, total predator hunting, and it was a no-brainer, right?
Mm.
So everybody's
And and
been
and, and also, from what I understand, some hyena as well, which are ginormous. I don't know if you guys, the ATN Nation viewers, take a look on like Wikipedia or whatever. Take a look at the size of hyenas, and those things are just massive, massive animals, and very strong and powerful, and just vicious. But I'm sorry.
yeah, so, yeah, no, so 100%. So there are hyenas around, but unfortunately, you need a permit for those.
Mm,
But they can cause havoc, especially with cattle.
mhm.
So if you can get the permit, then yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but apart from that, we do a lot of daytime hunting as well. We shoot from jackal all the way through a eland.
Mhm.
So we're very lucky with all the game animals that we've got here in South Africa. And yeah, I mean, especially with the predator hunting, the ATN is, I think, bulk of the predator hunters in South Africa owns a thermal or night vision scope now. So, I mean, all before that, it was all just spotlights. But I mean, it's a no-brainer to go to a thermal.
So your family originally, were they always, are you were you born and raised in South Africa, or your family
Yeah.
immigrated to South Africa for whatever opportunities, or have you got,
Yeah.
is it
So
a more generational type of thing?
yeah, I was born in South Africa on a farm. Yeah. So I've been
Hmm.
hunting since I was 6 years old on the farm. So
Hmm.
yeah, I've been in hunting and farming all my life basically.
What kind of farming do you guys, have? What kind of agriculture in South
Yeah,
Africa?
so we've got maize and soya on the agricultural side, and then obviously cattle and sheep as well, and
Mhm.
then a lot of we've got game on our farms as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. So
and you
that
have two boys also, right? That you've also kind of started teaching
yes.
shooting and the sport shooting skills.
Yeah, so I've got the 10-year-old and the 5-year-old. The 10-year-old started when he was 5 years old, actually with the Excite One, and started showing them how to shoot. That's actually a very good point on the shooting range to teach your kids is to stream to your scope. Then you can actually see what they're seeing when you're teaching them. because with a glass scope, we've learned with a glass scope, but I mean, it's so easy now because you never know that first time what do they actually see when
Right.
they look through the scope. So yeah, so my 10-year-old has been hunting since he was 6. I think he shot like 8 or 9 species already. And
Wow.
then my 5-year-old started actually learning to shoot about 2 weeks ago on the farm. So yeah, no, I mean they enjoy it so much, and especially the recording side of it
Right.
to show all their friends their videos.
They're gonna become some hunting YouTube stars with time.
Yes, yes, yes. Possibly, possibly.
So tell me, so the transition for you from glass to digital, was it challenging? Was it like a bit of a learning curve? Did you turn to like our Smart HD owners group for support? How did tell me about the transition from glass to digital, because we don't really talk about traditional hunting with glass scope and the transition that hunters undertake to move to digital.
Yeah, see, I think it because I grew up with a glass scope. I mean, I started shooting since I was 5 or 6 years old, and then to go to a digital that you're not familiar with, I mean, it was a big transition. So I googled ATN and I got my first one, period for the predator hunting, and then I got to go onto the HD owners group, the
Mhm.
ATN owners group, and I mean, I asked a lot of questions there. Um, well, people paid or they started learning, and then we don't have to pay that same school fees. If you go
Mhm.
into the owners group and you've got a question, I mean, it's all been covered there. And obviously, spending time with your optics, eh?
Mhm.
So I played around the whole time, played with the focus, played with the recording, played with everything till I was comfortable to take it out in the field, eh?
Mhm.
Yeah, but it is for everybody. It's quite a big transition. But I mean, if you play around with the scope, ask questions. You once you get to know it, I mean, it's actually dead simple. Eh?
Right. And I understand you use the multiple profiles that we offer in X8
Yeah,
4K, and you have, I believe, the Mars 4 in South Africa because you're international.
yeah.
Um, what type of calibers do you prefer? I know you do a lot of different types of hunting, from Jackal, which is like a coyote in this here in the
100%.
states in terms of size, but you have bigger animals, game animals, that you need a bit more of a powerful round, and the distances are, from my understanding, are pretty large because
Yeah,
there's not a lot of cover in some areas in South Africa, and so you have to
correct.
shoot a lot longer distances because you have long fields and prairies where these game animals roam, and you have
That's it.
to be, bigger distance. You have to take shots, ethical shots, uh, and so the animal doesn't suffer, and so you have to be a little more judicious and more careful and more patient when you're
That's it.
hunting big game in South Africa.
Yeah. So my preferred rifles for Jackal is a 22 to 50.
Hmm.
And then my 243 actually improved. So my 243 actually improved. I used quite a lot, especially for long range as well
Hmm.
on medium bodied animals. And then for big game animals like eland and so forth, I use my 7mm rem mag. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, with you talking about the profiles, before I had more than one ATN, I used to set up profiles for each of my rifles for the different uses. It came in very, very handy. I
Right.
mean, because you can just swap it on a Picatinny rail that we use,
Hmm.
and what's your uncle? So that helped quite a lot or to switch it between your different rifles. Yeah,
And I believe once we came out with the Able, you became an even bigger fan of the
yeah.
profiles and the ballistics and setup. Can you tell us about your experience using the ballistic calculator integrated with the Able or the binoculars? Because not a lot of people know, but you can actually pair our binocs 4Ks with our Bix technology and pair them with the X8 4K or Thor 4 Mars 4, and have them feed the ballistic information to your scope for that instant POI
Good
movement
job.
of the POI to target. And I believe you've made some really incredible long range shots, almost up to 1,000 yards, right?
Yeah. So what we've done with that ballistics calculator, because some of it is so long range, I mean, you need to be confident in your shot. So we spent a lot of time on the range testing the ballistics calculator, and I mean we've taken it up to 950 meters already.
Right.
So that, I mean, shot after shot.
Right.
So obviously, when there's wind, you adjust. You'll take your wind reading and adjust. But when there's a wind calm day, I mean, you can push the limits. And what I especially like in with the Mars and the thermal hunting that we do, well, it's the same as the Thor you've got there. I mean, you're not 100% accurate on what the distance is when a jackal comes in at night when you call,
Hmm.
because it's pitch black. It's difficult to range. But with the able, oh my goodness, that changed the world, eh? Because especially when the jackal is quite far and you range it, you know exactly what distance that jackal is to take that ethical shot.
Right.
And what I like more is that the ballistics crosshair with the teal dot that moves up and down,
Right.
so makes the shot so quickly when you range the jackal or whatever at night.
Really takes out the guesswork. Really makes it like
Yeah, it
more
does.
streamlined
It
and
does.
and easier.
Yeah, and I mean, if you miss a jackal at night, you're going to pay the price as well, because it's going to take you a couple of months to get that jackal again. So the ballistics calculator plus the able and with the thermal, I mean, you can take the ethical shots quite a distance away.
Right. Because the jackals, they're very smart. I take it they learn very quickly, and so it's harder once, let's say, if you make a mistake, it's very unforgiving, right? And it's harder
Ah, no,
to call them in. Do you guys use like e-collars also, or hand squeaks, or how do you bring them in, or is
yeah,
it just knowing the
equal.
pattern and because they take like cattle and some farm animals, and so you have to protect you know your farmland, I guess.
Yeah, so we basically use exactly the same concept as what the guys in the US use for coyote. So e-callers and hand calls, and
Hmm.
you sit and call them in. The only difference is we do it on the back of a truck, because you've got a lot of distance to cover,
Hmm.
and in some regions it's it's quite dangerous because there are some big predators around, like leopard
Right.
and so forth.
Right.
Yeah, so we
Or
do all of
lions or tigers. Oh my! it's a
yeah, yeah,
it's a whole jungle book out there in South Africa, isn't there?
it is.
Hey, even a hippo could be dangerous, right? If you're next to a river and there's hippos or something, they're massive, very dangerous animals. People think they're
Yeah.
docile, but they could be very, very dangerous. They have huge teeth and mouths, and how many? I hear a lot of people die because of hippo attacks and stuff in the rivers
They
or the lakes in Africa.
Yeah, they're quite hectic. So I actually have a video on the ATN Smart HD page
Uh huh.
where I went to pick up a jackal and something just told me, listen, I don't feel comfortable. So when I got back on the truck and I started scanning, there was actually a hippo walking in the field about
Really?
50 yards from where my jackal was.
Wow.
So yeah, quite a big shock, but yeah, it
Wow.
made good footage.
No, it's very dangerous. I'm not sure. They're not only vegetarians; they eat meat also, right? If there's like a carcass,
Yeah, absolutely.
they're omnivores. People think they're
Omnivorous, yeah.
people think they're just vegetarians and they eat like vegetation, but they're omnivores. And again, they may attack. That's why you guys use those like elevated trucks with those elevated stands, because of all the actual danger out there when you're hunting not only
Yeah,
jackals and hyenas, but other like leopards, as you said. There's cheetahs.
yeah.
It's Africa. You have a
And
whole host of animals and
yeah.
that can attack, especially at night when it's really dark and when they come out and hunt to feed their prides and families of sorts.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, but you see quite a lot of cool stuff during the night, I must say. Even with
Yeah.
a couple of dangerous things around, you see a lot of wildlife at night there.
Hmm. Um, do jackals hunt in like coyotes like in packs? Do Is there like a limit? How many of them do you see, or is it like a substantial amount, like 10 or so? Because that could be pretty dangerous, I would assume, if there is a big pack of these animals roaming around trying to hunt.
Yeah, no. So it obviously depends on the season, just like coyotes.
Hmm.
So in mating season, it will just be two of them.
Hmm.
When the pups are born, there might be five or seven around with a adult pair. But yeah, no, not really bigger than that. And as they grow up, the pups, I mean, they move around and go solo as well
Right.
till they mate. Yeah, so not
So
really
they,
an
they, they,
issue.
don't, they don't they don't have like a pack mentality,
No, not
basically.
at
No.
all. No,
Okay.
no. Only when they're young.
Mm.
Yes. It's not like wild dogs. Wild dogs, on the other hand, I mean, they stay in packs and hunt in packs.
Hmm.
And they can be up to 15 to 20 to 30 of them
But you
around.
guys, you guys don't hunt wild dogs in Africa.
No,
I think they're endangered, right, or something. There's like only a
yeah,
few hundred or so left in
yeah.
existence. I know.
Yeah, no, they're protected.
I was in Palm Springs last November at the Living Desert Preserve near San Diego, in the Palm Springs area, and they have actually, I think, 12 of 100 a pack of 12 wild dogs from Africa that they've like rescued, that they have there at the preserve, which is, I think, like 12 out of 100 or 200 that are left in existence. So there's not a lot of those animals left around, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
do you guys help local authorities with poachers because you have the gear, or not really? It doesn't really, those type of
No, no.
things.
So that goes more to the military
Mm,
side. So. And
gotcha.
but a lot of the security forces here and security
Mm,
companies do use thermals at night just to spot
mm,
the danger or whatever. Yeah.
right.
So a lot of them has moved over to thermals.
So before transitioning from from glass to digital, you were using, I guess, spotlights. So you didn't really use other competitors' products to kind of have a feel of the differentiation or the capabilities. Do you have maybe friends in South Africa that use other products that you have can compare and contrast their performance, or like battery life, or things of that nature?
Yeah, so I basically moved directly from glass scope onto ATN. So I googled around before I bought
Mm,
my first one. So I
right.
looked at ATN and Pulsar and so forth. But yeah, I was happy with what I saw in the
Okay.
ATN. So I've got friends here and there that uses some other products as well. But
Hmm.
I would say probably 85% of predator hunters in South Africa use ATN.
Wow,
So
that's good to hear.
yeah.
That there's a great adoption in where you are of our products and technologies. I'm really happy to hear that. I really wanted to know. I'm sure you've gotten us some really incredible footage of wildlife in Africa with the binocs and X8 4K. How close do you get to these animals when you're recording or filming? Is it really close so you could get that image quality, or the optical and digital magnification are such that you don't have to be as close and you can get those really awesome videos and still keep your a safe distance?
Yeah, so I think, so Steve, I think the last couple of years, I mean, the products developed so much. So in the beginning, I
Mm.
mean, with the Excite or with the previous binos, the further you zoomed in, the more distorted it got.
Right.
But with this new range, I mean, you can, I mean, just to take an example, you can zoom into 20 magnification on a 4K and shoot 700, 800 yards. You still see your steel target.
Right.
So, I mean, it changed totally. But I would say, yeah, anything from 50 to 250 or 300 yards with the binos is where those animals are, because it's not really possible to get close to them all the time.
Right.
But I think the key thing for me that we've seen is just to play with your focus, get to know your focus, because that gives you that crisp and clear image when you need it.
Right.
So that's my key with the binos and the 4K is just to get that focus perfect. And I mean, the more you play with it, the more you get to know it. So then you know how to adjust.
Right.
Even if
So when you're in the field, you don't just leave the focus as is because of the huge range that you scan for animals. You constantly are adjusting and focusing to get you the best picture quality in your product.
yeah, 100%. Because I mean, we've got from Bushveld, so then you can leave it at a small magnification and get your focus correct. But I mean, when you go to the flats and to the mountains, I mean, that's way out that where you see animals. So then you just have to adjust your focus together with your zoom.
Have you used the binoculars to spot and range and then take the shot with
Yeah.
the scopes? You've done that? What's the
Yes,
what's
sure.
the
So yeah.
Go ahead.
No, so we've done that actually with the binos and with a rangefinder as well. So when you fall out in the open spaces, it makes it so easy if one guy is on the rifle and the other guy can range, and he doesn't have to range or adjust anything. So once the ballistics calculator is activated in the scope and you send them that range, either with the rangefinder or the binos, I mean it's quick shooting then.
Makes it a lot faster, right? Instead of like
Yeah,
turrets, windage and elevation, looking at charts and figuring out the
100%.
humidity levels. Because I
Yeah,
know it gets really hot and the air gets a little thicker, so the ballistics it really impacts the ballistics significantly versus a
100%.
cooler, crisper kind of air conditions. You really have to battle the environment when you're making those long range shots, right?
No, 100%. So for me, I mean, I got really excited with these new 4K binos when I saw it's got the rangefinder in, and we got to test it and play with it, and now we use it.
Right.
So because you can get that clear image, so especially with us, if you take guys out hunting, I mean, you can spot the correct animal that you want to take out, range it immediately, and send the range to the scope, which makes for quick shooting for the client as well.
Right. So you also do like guided hunts as well?
Yeah, for local guys, yeah. Yeah, so
Cool.
take them out to the farms and stuff, yeah.
I know with the current lockdowns, have you had much opportunity taking people out on guided hunts, or have you done? I know you have a curfew like around 9ish,
Yes.
so predator
Yeah.
hunting at night is difficult. But how often do you go like day hunting for like bigger game?
Yeah, so
I'm sure your freezer is stocked up on some really awesome
yeah,
exotic meat.
yeah.
It's dream of mine. Be told, hunting in South Africa is definitely on the bucket list.
Well, you invited all the time, eh?
Oh, thank you, appreciate it, my friend.
Yeah, no. So I mean, during COVID, we had some hard lockdowns
Mhm,
that you can't. Sometimes we couldn't even travel out of the province, and
mhm,
some of our farms is in a different province as well. So we were basically stuck there.
mhm.
And then at night, with the curfew that we had, the curfew is from, say, for instance, 9 till 4 in the morning, 9 at night till 4 in the morning. So, I mean, that's the peak time where you hunt predators. Then you're
And
not allowed to travel.
and they don't joke around with the curfews in South Africa.
No,
After curfew, that you get shot or something, right?
no, they're very strict. They'll actually lock you up.
Oh yeah,
So we couldn't, unless if you go and stay on a farm where you hunt, then it's a different story.
I see.
But you travel with curfew, it made it quite difficult for us that do a lot of predator hunting at night.
Right.
Yeah, and we're still on curfew, so you need to pick your chances over the weekends and so forth.
Right. Question: are there any kind of exotic animal like tournaments or any kind of hunting tournaments in South Africa, or like the biggest game or biggest like antelope or like I don't know nicest
Yeah,
horns or something?
yeah. So there was here and there, but it's not as big as in the States with like coyote competitions and
Right.
tournaments and stuff. So we don't really have that. Sometimes we'll get together, a couple of us, before COVID.
Hmm.
And then we were a couple of trucks and hunt a certain area,
Hmm.
like a friendly comp, but nothing, like the kayak tournaments overseas now.
Yeah, the guy that doesn't shoot anything buys the round of beers, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Any
That,
interesting or crazy stories that you could tell us about some of your hunting adventures in South Africa? I'm sure our listeners would love to hear anything, that you will, willing to tell us.
yeah, so it happened a couple of times during the night when I hunt. So the most interesting stuff happens at night.
Of course.
Obviously, a lot of animals walking around, but like that depot, oh my gosh, I got such a fright day. That was walking like 50 yards from my truck where I
Hmm.
used to pick up the jackal. And then sometimes it happened to me before as well, where I hunted with the e-collar on, and
Hmm.
then suddenly instead of a jackal that rocks up, there's a leopard that's standing next to the e-collar. Obviously, you can't shoot them now,
Right.
but it's still beautiful to see and
Right.
interesting. Gets your heart rate going.
So, question.
Yeah.
So I guess leopards are protected. You can't hunt them. But what if they attack you? Can you protect yourself, or it's one of those tricky things?
I think it's one of those gray areas, but
Mm.
obviously I know what some would do and what others won't do. So
Right.
um, a little bit of a gray area.
I gotcha. Any other kind of dangerous species you've hunted besides jackal and hyena in
So
Africa?
yeah, so we went to a farm, I think a couple of months ago.
Hmm.
We were hunted and we actually hunted in between rhinos and elephants,
Oh wow.
and crocodiles, and there was basically everything on that property.
Hmm.
And it's huge. But so that was quite interesting to see because you started walking in the bush looking for a blue wildebeest or eland, and all
Hmm.
of a sudden there's a huge white rhino standing in front of you.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and then if you walk the other way in the reeds, there's suddenly an elephant walking out that went to the river for a drink.
Right.
So yeah, it's quite cool stuff to see.
No, definitely. You have a safari in your backyard, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, we're very lucky with all the game animals we've got here.
Right, right. Yeah, the water buffalo, eland, I guess the impalas. Um, I'm sure you've taken a few impalas in your time, right?
Yeah, hundreds. Yeah, they like they like whitetails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
So actually, asking about the interesting hunt. So
mm.
one of my interesting hunts, actually, apart from Africa, was when I hunted in Texas. So
Oh,
that was
really?
a cool, yeah, very cool experience for me, where I shot a big Nilgai bull
Hmm.
and obviously coyotes and lots of pigs.
Sure.
My gosh, yeah. But yeah, that was a highlight for me as well. I'm sure the guys
So
from the US that come hunt here feels the same about animals over here.
sure. So what was interesting hunting in Texas? Is it the different style of hunting, the different type of firearms that are available? What made it so much more interesting than honestly, I can't imagine if hunting anywhere more interesting than in Africa.
Yeah, and so I think one thing I enjoyed a lot is going with the airboats around in the swamps and so forth.
Hmm.
Obviously, we don't have airboats here, so that was awesome. And then, I mean, all the different game species in the US as well.
Hmm.
So, I mean, like the impalas are here, the whitetails are there, and
Right.
yeah, but yeah, and just to see a different part of the world, I mean,
Right.
that's to share the same experience with like-minded people.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
A hunter is a hunter. Doesn't matter if he's from Norway, somewhere on the European continent, U.S. or South Africa, or in Africa or someplace else. It's a community. It's a brotherhood. It's
that
definitely sharing stories and experiences that most will never experience in their lives. So
kind
it's fantastic. It's hard to express sometimes. The feelings and the emotions you feel, and stalking, and spending the time and effort, because it's not easy. This is very challenging. This is hard work. You got to be physically fit, much more so than I am right now, being stuck at home for 2 years in COVID. But uh,
yeah.
I know last time I was with Shane, after we were swaying some hogs in the field and we were dragging them, I was getting winded. Man, I'm definitely out of shape. 80 pounders, 100 pounder, these hogs, and I'm like struggling dragging them behind me. And Shane is like, and Sean is like, like swooping it up with their like these huge meat hooks that they have to drag him out of the fields. It's like I don't know, like nothing, like little kittens for them or something.
Yeah,
Because
that's yeah, that's
they
awesome.
do it all the time, right? They do it all the time.
I mean, those guys kill 1,000 dogs a year.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, it's incredible
crazy number.
numbers, incredible
And I know
numbers.
you've hunted with him now, so that's quite cool. But
Yeah,
it's the same for us. So Jason and a couple of the international guys came and hunted here with us as well.
right. Yeah,
So this whole hunting community opened so many doors to meet people from around the world. I mean, it's crazy.
for sure, and it's fun and it's awesome. You get to meet a lot of interesting people, hear a lot of cool, interesting stories. And sometimes when you're lucky and you have opportunities to go to places like Africa, and you get to hunt, hunts of a lifetime.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
Um, any plans for the future? Are you still planning to stay in Durban? And I know you work for a major corporation there in South Africa, but are you planning to stay there for a long time? Yeah, I know you guys have farmland and lots of properties and all, or do you have other plans for the future?
So we actually absolutely love it here in Durban, apart from the looting that happened. But I mean, that's all sorted. But
Right.
I mean, we love the climate. It's subtropical, so I
Okay.
can actually go and drive 30 minutes and hunt all the game species I want.
Hmm.
And then I drive other way 30 minutes and I can fish for bluefin tuna.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
we love it here at the coast. Yeah. It's
Okay.
beautiful vegetation, proper weather.
Mhm.
And yeah, now it's just a curfew that must be done, then we can hunt properly.
Right. Right. Question: what is your most favorite feature in the ATN lineup? I guess I know you've mentioned the ballistic calculator, but anything that really has made the world of difference for you?
Yeah, so I think definitely, obviously, by far, the ballistics calculator is one of the best things I've ever used.
Hmm.
But I must say, it's not the same for everybody. But the recording function for me, I mean, you capture such an awesome moment that you can replay and watch over and over again and share it like worldwide. I mean, on the owners groups and the Binox groups, and I mean with friends overseas.
Right.
That's by far also one of the. I know it's a simple function, but my goodness, it it changed the world for me. That's for
Right.
sure.
And I think it changed the world for a lot of hunters and a lot of people that are
Yeah.
using our products and similar products. The recording aspect of the first person perspective through the scope and seeing exactly um, that animal in on video, and the moments up to it and and after is really is a game changer and is really opened up, I think, hunting to a lot of people, because you can do a lot of these things and showcase exactly what you've experienced with your friends and family and your cohorts and like-minded hunters. So it's a fantastic feature that I love, and I think a lot of our audience also love and gravitate to, and use it as much as possible. And why not, right? It has this capability, and the video quality has become so good, and you could
Mm.
zoom in so far and still retain that great image and video quality that um it just presents a whole new world in terms of hunting and sharing the hunt basically with others.
Yeah, 100%, especially in the with the night hunting. I mean, if something goes wrong as well, not everything goes as planned every
Right.
single time. So then you also look back at the video and see where things might have gone wrong.
Right. It's a learning
Especially
experience. Right.
100%. And that's especially at night with the thermal. I mean, you can tell someone, listen, I've seen a freaking buffalo at my caller
Mhm.
chasing something else. But I mean, how do you explain it to them? But now with the recording function, you can actually show them what you saw to put things into perspective. So, yeah, it's awesome.
Right. Right. Well, Marno, I really appreciate you joining me in the segment. One of these days, I will make it a point to somehow get out there to South Africa and hunt with you, buddy. missed you. I know we saw each other maybe 2 years ago in Las Vegas at SHOT Show, which was fantastic. But with this whole COVID thing, it's been kind of difficult.
Yeah.
But again, really appreciate you joining me in the segment. I'm sure a lot of people found all of the things you've mentioned very interesting, and maybe even will be inspired to go to Africa and ant hunt and see the beauty and pristineness of nature and all that Africa has to offer.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the opportunity as well, Steve. And yeah, we miss all of you guys. And yeah, I think it's a great initiative you guys have got going now with this ATN Nation Live. I mean, just to talk to all different people. So yeah, well done on that as well.
Appreciate you, buddy. Have a great day, and we'll chat later.
Stay safe.